My name's Natasha. For those that don't know me, I'm the co-owner of Ivy Candle, and my mission is to build deep connections with people that have bought Ivy Candle and will potentially buy Ivy Candle. And I know through Instagram things can look like they don't fall apart and everything's perfect, but I wanted to share with you guys what I've been dealing with over the past year and the beginning of this year, and still being able to exist and run Ivy Candle. So the beginning of 2019, me and my partner decided that we wanted to have a baby. So I was pregnant for about 3 weeks, and I started spotting. So my partner and I went to the emergency room and they did the ultrasound. They heard the baby heartbeat. Everything was fine. I left. They noted it with my OB, and I went home that same night. And then about 2 more weeks, not the bleeding. So when I left the hospital, they said that it's normal, like at the beginning of pregnancy, that you see a little bit of spotting, but my spotting didn't stop. So I went to the hospital again. I went to the emergency room, and then this time when I went and they did the ultrasound, there was no heartbeat, and basically there was not even it was no baby in my uterus. So basically the whole bleeding, the beginning was bleeding of my body preparing for the miscarriage, and I didn't stop bleeding because the miscarriage happened. So after that, we didn't know, well, I didn't know how to feel, because I knew that I was healthy, and I knew that I was never on birth control. Like, I just thought that I did everything right, so when I was ready to actually have a baby, I would be able to. So we dealt with that for about like 2-3 months. We didn't want to rush into something, so we just let it like ponder, and we contemplated if we wanted to try again. But we decided that we did want to try. We tried again, and this time we were very optimistic, because we knew that it was a common thing for mothers, first-time mothers, to try to get pregnant and have a miscarriage, but it wasn't like a big deal, as if like, oh, you can't have kids ever. The whole time I was going through my pregnancy, I was active. I was very active. I was walking. I was going through my daily routine. At the time, I was still a student, and I was also working, and I honestly did not, I felt healthy, I had no complications. I was not throwing up. I didn't have any type of, you wouldn't have known that I was pregnant by the way that my body was externally. So I was hopeful. Like, I got past the 6-week period, which I didn't in the first pregnancy. So that was another thing that had me very optimistic. But I went to my 16-week ultrasound, and they saw that my cervix was abnormal. So instead of like jumping to conclusions, they just like monitored me. So every week I had to go to the doctor, and that was nerve-wracking, because it's like a part of me was wanting to be totally hopeful that my cervix wouldn't continue to shorten, and the second part of me was just expecting the bad news, or was ready to accept the bad news that I thought that I would get. So as I went to get my ultrasound every week, they also gave me a suppository that was supposed to help with not allowing my cervix to shorten anymore. And it wasn't working, because every single time when I went to get my ultrasound, my cervix was shortening. So on my when I went to get my ultrasound, I was 20 weeks, and then that's when they decided that I had to be rushed into emergency surgery. So literally after I left to get my ultrasound, we set up we set up arrangements for me to go into the hospital and be admitted and get the surgery. And this, it's just like the whole thing was just like me trying to be rational and then also trying to control my emotions, because in that state, like in that state of mind, it's just basically like, okay, like let's just get to the hospital. There's still a chance that you can still go through a healthy pregnancy. So we went to the hospital and I thought everything was perfectly fine. The surgery was successful. It was quick, it was painless, but the doctor said for me to be safe, he recommended that I stayed in the hospital and I was on bed rest. And this was like the worst thing ever for me, because I just hate feeling useless in a sense. So I know me having to be confined to this hospital bed was just gonna be too much for me to bear. Like, the doctor wanted me to use a bedpan to use the bathroom. He just didn't want me to do anything that would cause my cervix to dilate even further, and any type of extra movement would make me at risk for my cervix dilating even more. During that process, I couldn't work. Like, neither of us couldn't work. We basically, like, my partner said that we moved into a hotel and money was tight, and we basically had only the support of like our parents. So I got to a point where I accepted the fact that I had to stay in the hospital, and I followed all the doctor's orders. And we had short-term goals while I was in the hospital. So my first short-term goal was just to get me to 24 weeks, because once you get to 24 weeks, the baby has the doctors actually try to save the baby's life. When I was 24 weeks, literally the day I turned 24 weeks, I started feeling pain, but I thought it was just like a normal pain. So I, like, the night before, I was just like laying there and I was just dealing with it, and then the morning of, the pain started getting more intense. So I communicated with the nurses and they put me on a monitor and they began to monitor the baby. I was in the room alone, and I just remember feeling this like undescribable pain. The nurses had went out of the room to try to prepare everything because they had a feeling that I was in labor. I was just thinking, like, even though I had made it to 24 weeks, I just felt like it was just too soon. Like, I wanted to go to our second goal, which was 28 weeks, because 24 weeks was just like the bare minimum of getting the baby to survive. And I remember feeling this like pressure, like I have to use the bathroom, and I was reaching for the monitor to contact the nurses, and it was nowhere to be found. And it's literally when I felt like I felt like I had to push, the doctor literally walked into the room the moment when I felt like I had to push. So I pushed the baby out. She was a girl, and the doctors were saying that she was very small, but she was still moving. But then I just felt, when I seen like the chaos that was going on in the room, I started crying, because I just knew it's just like a feeling of feeling like, damn, like, you know, something isn't right. When it's a whole bunch of people and they doing a whole bunch of stuff that you don't know what's going on, you just know that things aren't going right. But she made it through transport. So every single day, I would go, well, I was in the hospital with her for 3 days, but then I had to go home. And every day I would go to the hospital and I would visit her. And I never looked at it as if she was suffering. I just knew that she was surviving. I was just happy that I got to go to the hospital and I got to see my baby every single day. And also during that time, I was pumping, so I was feeling very maternal. Although she wasn't home with me, I was still she was still a part of like my everyday lifestyle. Like I had already switched my schedule around to wake up at certain times to pump so that I would be able to take my milk back to the hospital. And this lasted about 6 weeks, and getting down to the 6 weeks, like the last 3 days, it was a roller coaster. She had to undergo surgery, and they said that she was fine. Like she was fine the whole, like after the surgery, like if she made it through the surgery, then she would be fine. So but that day I just felt like something wasn't right. They thought like after the surgery she would get better, but her condition stayed the same. Like around midday, when they found out that she wasn't getting any better, they asked me like what did I want to do. Did I want them to try other methods, or did I just want them to stop all medical care and I just hold her? So I told them I wanted them to continue with the medical care, and they explained to me like at this point they were just torturing her. And then I was just, and then at that point I had to realize that it didn't make sense for me to just sit here and watch them torture my baby. So I asked them to stop, and once they stopped, like they wrapped her. And at this point I just couldn't even hold her. Like I couldn't even hold her. I just like it took me like a good 20 minutes to actually gain back my composure to even want to hold her. And once I did hold her, I just it was just like that hopeless feeling again, like you just think that things are gonna go up and then they just don't. No matter what you try, or no matter what the doctors tried, like things didn't turn around. And then I just knew that things were like not in my control anymore. That was like the day of like realization, where we knew that like she wouldn't be able to come home anymore. And it was just like it was a lot for me to get adjusted to after the day she passed away, because like as I mentioned, I just felt very maternal. Like I still felt like I had a child, but my physical child wasn't there anymore. So I still felt the need to pump. I still felt the need, like I have to wake up and I have to go to the hospital. But then it's like I didn't have to do these things anymore. So that took a toll on me. So instead of like staying stagnant in those emotions, I just like looked at it as like a fire. Like I just wanted to get back to everything that I was doing. I just couldn't wait. Like I went to my what was supposed to be a 6-week checkup. I went to it at 4 weeks, and I just was ready to just start back working and move forward. Like I just got to a point where I knew like I couldn't, it was nothing that more that I could do. So what I could do is what I did, which was like start back working and just push forward. Another way that I coped with losing her was motivation to try again. So now the condition that I have, the incompetent cervix, it's only something that can be detected once you're pregnant. So because they were able to detect it in my first pregnancy, they said like it was a 93% chance that if I tried again, that this pregnancy would be totally different. So we decided to try again. Sometimes it don't go your way. Sometimes you got